Hello, I'm Challen, the Edgy Skater, and today I have another part 2 kind of video for you guys. This one is going to be part 1, Things I Wish I Knew as an Amateur Competitive Skater. So I have another list with me, and I hope that you find these helpful. Number 1, ask coaches questions. So, back when I was a kid, I was under a couple of impressions that were essentially false. One of them was that the coach knows everything. And if I ask the coach questions, that's akin to disrespecting their knowledge. It's like I say I don't believe them or I think I know better than them, so I dare to question their methods. This is not true. And in a healthy relationship with the coach, they're going to want you to ask questions and they're going to be very happy to answer them. Another issue I was dealing with was a self esteem issue. I did not have the confidence to ask questions. And even if I kind of started to, if I didn't get all the detail I was looking for, I didn't continue to push it further. I just internalized it that there was something wrong with me because I didn't understand what they were saying and they shouldn't need to go into more detail. And again, this isn't an issue in a good, healthy coaching dynamic. But there was something I struggled with. Feeling like I shouldn't be asking questions because it was disrespectful and not having the self confidence to really ask questions and push for further explanation when what they were trying to explain to me, voluntary or not, um, wasn't quite registering in my brain. Another one is to explore less common competitive avenues. So we are familiar with freestyle, pairs, and ice dance on TV. But there are other forms of skating that aren't televised. Synchronized skating is now slowly becoming more televised, and it's breaking into what we could call the mainstream figure skating. But there's still other disciplines. Theater on ice, for instance, it's a really, really cool, another big group team kind of skating activity. They have their own competitions, they have their own nationals, they have their own international competitions. But in my area, we did not have a team established immediately where I was. I never thought to ask to establish such a team, and that's further in the list. And I just I wasn't really aware of it. It didn't really click as a potential viable option. And on top of theater of ice, there's different kinds of artistic skating. There's different forms of these more nuanced kinds of skating. Contemporary figure skating is literally the translation of contemporary dance on ice, usually contemporary modern. But there's different kinds of things like that, that again, they have their own series, they have their own camps and meetups and all these cool things. But at the time, I was so stuck in my mind about, this is my discipline and this is what I need to do to get to nationals beyond in my discipline. I didn't think to look further outside it, whether it was more on a career level or just for the sake of fun and expansion and meeting new people and getting into different circles of skaters. So at some point, I'm going to make a video about the different kinds of more less mainstream or more fringe kind of skating competitions. But I strongly encourage you to consider trying to find some. You might meet some really, really cool people and discover new avenues in your skating that even if you don't switch to that subgenre, it'll probably only help and reinforce your current discipline some way, somehow. Another one was, okay, so we know what pair skating is, right? That's the partnered skating with the big tricks, the overhead lifts, the twists, and the throws. Sort of in a similar vein, adjacent thing to that, is something called adagio skating, which again is usually pair. And often with this, but sometimes in bigger groups than just two people, is something called acrobatic skating. And I had it in my mind, and there's a couple of reasons for this I won't get into, but I had it really stuck in my mind that you had to be this awesome, awesome individual skater before you could ever learn how to do any of these more daredevil partnered kind of trick show skating elements. And that is not true, especially as an adult. If you want to, and it takes a qualified coach, again, not every coach can do this, but a pairs coach is a good start, and an ice dance coach to a point is going to be a good start. You can hire the coach and learn whatever you want to learn. They're your employee. You can hire them to learn trick and acrobatic skating, and they'll teach it to you. If your skill set is not up to at least a basic enough level to learn some of these things safely, then they'll be able to help you get your skating to that baseline level where it's safe for you to continue. It's totally an option, and I thought it was something that I had to earn through perfection back when I was an amateur. It's not. Anyone can do it, you just need to find a qualified coach. All right. Another one, I probably should have put this one first. It's off ice is important. I know that seems maybe obvious, but off ice really, really should, in a perfect world, begin when your on ice skating begins. A lot of people think off ice is something for advanced skaters or highly competitive skaters, and it's something they'll add to their training regime later, at some point, further down the road. No. Off ice is a huge component of what keeps you safe on ice. You ideally will do these things together. And looking back now, I'm going to say it's practically a non negotiable. They really need to be together. The reason why we have skaters now doing quads before they even hit 12 years old, and we have skaters continuing to do quads pushing 30, past 30, is because of how far off ice training has evolved in the last 20 odd years of skating. You need off ice for safety, number one, longevity in the sport, number two, and number three, it's going to help balance out those muscle imbalances that we create. So, in dance, it would be unheard of to have a jumping and spinning side only and never train those things on the other side. That is slowly changing in skating, and we can get into that another point. But the off ice can help work out some of those muscle imbalances that can, left alone, lead to injuries and shorter careers further down the line. So, off ice is very, very important, and I strongly encourage everyone watching this to, in some way, somehow, try to incorporate some off ice, even if it is a Pilates class, at the ultimate least a yoga class, and talk to their coach about how they can get more figure skating specific off ice training. It's hugely important. All right. Another one is dance, particularly in the US, where everything is sort of a la carte versus necessarily a set training program. These are the things you need, so they come bundled. Um, dance. Dance is very important. Dance is very important for everybody, especially for ice dancers. But I do believe that every figure skater would benefit from some kind of formal ballet training. It doesn't have to be the strictest, most. How do I put this? There's a certain leeway in ballet about strict form. It has to be pretty strict to still be safe. It doesn't need to be absolute, I'm going to try to be a future principal dancer later on in my life. Perfect. But ballet is next to not negotiable. Dance in general, some kind, some form, at this point, almost any kind, any form, in my book, it's practically non-negotiable because it's going to teach you about musicality, it's going to teach you about timing, it's going to teach you more about proprioception, things about where your body is in space and time, especially because we have physics and skating that dancers don't have to deal with because they're not gliding like we are. anything to help you get control of your body on a regular floor without those extra physics principles in play is going to be really, really helpful on the ice. It's going to improve the artistic mark. It's going to make you look more professional, more polished. It'll help you get more points in skills that otherwise might have been marked down more than if you had not expanded into dance. And because warm ups and cool downs are so important in dance, it's also going to help contribute to part of that off ice training as well. So I strongly, strongly encourage you to consider some form of dance, regardless of the kind of skater you are. And if you are an ice dancer, when you're learning your compulsory dancers, whether you're learning 3 at a time, 4 at a time, I strongly encourage you to go to some kind of ballroom dance establishment and at least learn a little bit on the floor about whatever dances you're currently learning in your compulsory level. It's going to help you with those tests. It's going to help you appreciate what they are. It's going to make it a more literal translation. Because for those of you who don't know, ice dance is supposed to be a pretty literal translation of ballroom and Latin dancing on the ice. And a lot of ice dancers do not take ballroom or Latin dance. And then they struggle and kind of wonder why it's a struggle or why a few things about it are going to look different no matter what. But it looks more different than it needs to. And I'm saying this as an ice dancer who did not take those dance classes. So, very important. All right. Another one, getting a little bit into sports psychology now. Um, I believe that having any mental health professional that you know and trust is important in skating. It's a very demanding sport. It will not give you more than you are putting in, and often what you are putting in will look like it's not giving you a whole lot back for a while. It's a very tough sport. I strongly believe in having a mental health professional, if you can, by your side while you are skating. And then my next thing on the list right below that is something I didn't understand as an amateur is that while I understood that nerves were natural, nerves can also be trained in a way. While you're not necessarily going to be able to train yourself to never experience them, and I had been operating under the impression that either nerves crush you or you basically ignore them and then one day don't have them anymore. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But nerves in general, your response to that kind of nervous stimuli can be trained. We can train the nervous system, we can train the mind, we can train perception on how we interpret some of these signals, how to keep them escalating beyond a certain point, particularly if we catch that early enough. And even though I would not have liked to hear this, um, sometimes a big part of it is just exposure. So, doing things that make you nervous on purpose a lot can help desensitize you. Whether if you skate in your little comfort zone bubble all the time and then something new and different comes up, you register it as scary and then you feel more like you're going to be crushed under the pressure of this new thing. So, nerves can be worked with. Your body and your mind can be trained how you respond to them, and we can dial down how they impact you mentally and physically. You don't have to be a slave to nervousness. And an athlete who does not know how to handle nerves isn't a bad athlete. They just don't yet have the training and control that someone who either does not view it in that way to trigger that response in the first place does, or an athlete who has been trained on how to handle nervousness. So I think that's important, especially for adults. The mind is very elastic. You do not have to be at the mercy of your emotions, your self consciousness, and nervousness. These things can be worked on and improved, even if the way to do it isn't always comfortable. But it can be improved. All right. Another thing is if you start off in one figure skating discipline, most people start off in freestyle singles. If that discipline is not working for you, or if that discipline is not where you ultimately want to be, or another discipline has caught your attention and heart somewhere along the way, it is okay to switch disciplines. It doesn't matter how much time or money or whatever other kind of investment you put into a particular discipline. It is okay, you are allowed to switch disciplines at some point in your skating journey if you want to. I put so much into freestyle, even after to compete at the level in freestyle I wanted, it was becoming more and more evident that that wasn't going to happen. I was going to need to make a career change if I still wanted to have an elite level competitive career in figure skating some way, somehow. It wasn't the only reason why I switched to ice dance, but it was part of that reason. But if I had allowed myself to realize I could do this sooner, I would have done it sooner. I would have saved myself some injuries. I would have been able to have a longer ice dance career. Things just would have worked out a bit different. But the point is, if you want to switch into something else or at least try something else out, you can. All right. Another one, it kind of ties into this is speaking up and being your own self advocate. I had coaches in mind when I wrote that down, but it's not limited to just coaches. It's really kind of anyone. Sometimes in the mainstream amateur ranks, it's very, it can be extremely militant. Very, you know, you don't talk, you keep your head down, nose to the grindstone. You don't ask questions, you just drill. And sometimes you might need to speak up and advocate for yourself. Either that you are being pushed really hard or too far, or maybe you don't agree with something that's going on in your training team, and maybe you need to ask more questions about something, or you just really want to put your foot down and we're like, we need to pause this. I need more clarity and understanding on something. Or a big one for me was injuries. Um, and I have more about this on the list further down, but advocating for no, I'm sick or I'm in pain. So something is not right here. This is not one of those things where we'll push through it and be better off for it. This goes for your medical professionals as well. You might really need to advocate that there is a problem somewhere, and before we continue to move forward, we need to address this problem. Of course, it's going to be better if you go about this politely and respectfully, but that doesn't mean necessarily backing down or dismissing yourself, even if others are dismissing you. So, learning how to self advocate and speaking up, because let's be honest, no one is going to do it for you. No one else is in your body. No one knows what you're thinking. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this is your life. You're skating. You have to be in control of it. If you're not in control of it, someone else is, whether they want to be or not, is being put in control of it. Whether you're putting them in control of it because you're not taking up the reins, or they are trying to take control of it consciously or unconsciously and you're letting them. It's your life. You have to stay in control, and that means learning how to speak up, deal with confrontation in a healthy, not antagonistic way, and get your needs met. All right, and the last one for this part one is who ditching bad coaching relationships. So, if your coach does not listen about anything we just talked about in that last one, they're not here for the self advocacy. They don't even they hardly know what that means. Um, they're not really open to feedback or your ideas, or and sometimes this can be common, particularly with the kids, but this mentality often gets transferred out to adults. There are coaches in skating that kind of think they own you, that you are basically paying them to run you. No, 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 no. You hired this professional to help you. You are their employer, you are their boss. Now, they are, or hopefully are, an expert in their field, expertise you do not have. Hence, why you hired them. There's sort of a consulting aspect to this. However, you are in control of this relationship. I've seen skaters over the years, and I was one of these skaters for a long time where coach might as well have been God. And I am unworthy. I can only hope to have a small fraction of the knowledge or anything that you have, and I'll probably not be able to accomplish all the things you have. Um, I, I worked with very elite coaches, a lot of World Olympic uh, coaches, medalists, people like that. So people that had achieved the things that I wanted to achieve, statistically was not going to achieve, and I put them on really big pedestals. And I've seen people do that, and I've seen whether that coach was in that tier or not, and I've seen coaches take advantage of this, um, sometimes quite consciously. Is It's not good. If a coach is not listening to you, if they constantly trump your ideas or they don't want it to be a two-way street, even more so with an adult, and they have a tendency to almost treat you like a child, um, that's not good. That's not good. There's also a sometimes a fine line between constructive criticism that's hard to hear and criticism that has extra bite to it. Or maybe it's not even all that good at being critical. It's not constructive. It's not exactly giving you things to work off of. It's just kind of feels like you're getting bashed over the head. That's not good either. And a good, respectful coach will be able to take in your concerns and either explain where they're coming from, why they're doing it, and it'll make sense. Because sometimes the skater does need to check their own ego. Or it's just not a compatible fit. Worst case scenario, it's a abusive dynamic. So, how exactly did I word this again? Yes. If you have a coach that ideology you're not on the same page with, maybe style wise you're not on the same page with, or you keep running into issues that don't really fix themselves, they just keep coming up again and again and again, you're the boss. You can hire a new employee. You don't have to stick with a coach forever just because they're the first coach you ever had or you've been with them for a long time. If things aren't working, again, it's on you to make a call for yourself how best to move forward from there. Alright, this is part one. I will film part two. I know it's a bit of a longer video. I hope you made it all the way through it. And have a good day and good skate.